Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you my 3 favorite stock plugins that come loaded with Refur. You can get very high quality results with just these plugins, and they're a great way to learn how to use fundamental VSTs. Let's get started. So as I mentioned before, Refur comes loaded with a good amount of free plugins, and don't underestimate these guys. They're very powerful. So you go to your track, click on effects, and then you go to this where it says all plugins. You go to Kako section. I think I'm saying that correctly. And you see the Refur plugins. They all start with recast, recomp. And I'm going to give you just my 3 favorite ones, or the 3 I use the most. The first one is Re-EQ. This is an equalizer. And an equalizer, what it is, it targets specific frequencies, and you're either going to boost or cut these. Obviously, you want to cut the bad frequencies and enhance the good frequencies. So usually when you have an EQ, they come in bands. So this one, you have 4 bands, these guys right here. And what's cool about this plugin is that you can keep adding bands. See, I'm adding more and more. Or you can remove them. For example, I can take this off and remove band, or you can keep 4. 4's the standard usually. You can visually see the frequencies that this sound clip is occupying. So say for example, since it's a guitar, maybe I want to take the mids and boost them a little bit, especially when you have a lot of instruments, you have a full mix going on, drums, bass, vocals, and things like that. Maybe you want to boost these signals here. And you want to play around with this. And the cool thing is that you have these controls here. For example, the frequency is going to target, it moves from left to right, and this is where you can zero in on specific frequencies, right? The gain is how much you're going to boost or cut it. And then this bandwidth is like how much is it going to take up. It could get very narrow, so you're like be very precise with the frequencies that in this case you're boosting, or it can just be overall like these high mids around here. So that's plugin number 1. Now plugin number 2 is one of my favorites. I use it all the time, Recomp, or as you can guess, it's a compressor. Let's check it out. When I was first getting started with Refur, it was my first time diving into audio production, and I'm not gonna lie to you, when I first saw this, it intimidated me a little bit because there are so many controls, and I've used the compressor before, you know, for my guitar. I've used it as a guitar pedal, so I kind of had a notion of what a compressor should do. But when you get into production here, there are so many things you could do with it. Obviously, I'm going to use it to process the guitar a little bit and show you what it does. But I want to go over these controls. I wouldn't judge the plugin based on its look. I know it's nothing fancy, but it has all the controls of that a compressor would have. So everything that you see here, most compressors are going to have this. It's a good way to learn how to use a compressor. And then later when you're more informed and you know what you need, you can make a more informed decision. So for example, let's go over some of the parameters here. The threshold, that's on the left hand side here, this marks the point at which the compressor is going to kick in. If it's on this line right here, you really have no compressor. Like at 0, there is nothing there. So for example, here I can set the threshold at like 5 dB or something like that, and that's when your sound clip hits that mark, that's when the compressor is going to start kicking in. Now it's just with the threshold, it's not going to kick in. You have to specify some other things, and for example, that's when the attack comes in. So the threshold controls at which point the compression is going to kick in. The attack is going to control when the compression kicks in. It can cut off the attack of the sound, like the very initial sound. So the quicker you make the attack, it's going to be more noticeable. It was going to activate faster and shave off or completely remove the attack. The release is when the sound is finished, and it will dictate how long it will take for the compressor to let that sound come back up. So the ratio here is very important because that's where you decide how much compression you're actually going to get. So here I'm on a 1-to-1 ratio. So you see this number on the right? So it's 2 numbers here I control. See, it's 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, right? This is very important. When you have a ratio of 1-to-1, there's no compression here. The ratio refers to the input and output that takes place above the threshold. So for example, if you set the ratio at 2-to-1, for every 2 decibels that come in above the threshold, only 1 is going to come out. So for example, if you went 10 decibels above the threshold and you have a ratio of 2-to-1, the compressor is only going to let out 5. 5 will reduce, and that's literally what got compressed. So as I mentioned before, the ratio is 1-to-1, and it goes one over the threshold, one comes out. There is no compression taking place. Basically, the higher your ratio number, the more compression there's going to be. So just for kicks, let's set the ratio at 3:1. And you see here on the right, this is how much gain reduction is taking place. So as you can see, you can go overboard with some of these and really squash the sound of the guitar. And it takes some getting used to. You have to learn how to listen, because compression, it's going to be different for everybody. It's going to depend on your gear. It's going to depend on your monitors. It's going to depend on your ear and what sounds good to you. And it's just time and experience. And to be honest, I'm still getting the hang of this, and it takes time and practice, and you just try to make every new track just sound better than the last one. And here, let me go over one more parameter, and that was the knee that I was playing with around at the end. The knee in a compressor refers to how abrupt or subtle your compression kicks in. So once you've set your parameters, like your attack, your release, your threshold, all that stuff, if you want your compression to come in hard or in a subtle manner, that's when you're going to play around with the knee. So with a hard knee, the compression is applied exactly at the point where you set the parameter. And then the soft knee kicks in a little before your threshold. So it makes the change a little more gradual rather than immediate. It's literally like a softer compression effect. So that's going to depend on where you set this parameter. And sometimes it's going to make it sound more abrupt, and sometimes, or you can smooth it out a little bit. And my third and final plugin is going to be Refur. It's a multi-purpose plugin. It can act as an EQ, a compressor, a noise gate, but I'm going to show you exactly what I like to use it for. So you pull up Refur, and it can, so here you have modes, right? And it can add as it can act as a noise gate, a compressor, and you can get very exact with these parameters. But what I like to use it for is whenever I make a mistake. For example, if I have some unwanted noise, I use it in the subtract mode. Now what this does is like if I set this threshold right here, it's gonna cut out everything in the sound. And that's what it does. It cuts out certain frequencies. Here is cutting out everything, right? Like if I turn it off, there it is. But here, what you can target, you can you could drag it all the way down. For example, this is what I do. I'm doing a bad job at it. But here, it's going to subtract nothing. It's going to let everything through. This is very useful when you have like a rumbling noise or something like that, or a very specific frequency that you want out. See, it only keeps the lows, right? It's kind of ridiculous. I don't think you would actually ever use it like this. But what I would do here, for example, it's put it on precise, get rid of those points. And what you can do is check automatically build a noise profile. So what you do in this case, this clip is not the best example to this, but I'll show you. Like, let's say there was a little buzz here that you didn't want. What I would do is just press play for a second and then turn it off immediately. It builds a profile, like those frequencies that it picked up, that's what it's going to cut out. See, like if I put it here, it's going to be silent for a second. When it matches those exact frequencies, like the sound goes out. It's going to sound a little weird, but if you had a buzz that you didn't want, or if you were doing a voiceover and you had a little rumble in the back, you try to pick a part in the clip where it's just that rumbling, that sound that you don't want, and ideally, most of the time, it just gets rid of it. It's a really cool way, and sometimes you have to play with a wet signal and kind of like find that sweet spot, but it's a really powerful tool, especially for, you know, when you make mistakes like that, or you get some unwanted noise, or you got that one take, you're like, that's the take that you wanted, and but you have some unwanted noise in there. This tool has really helped me out in those situations. So that's it, guys. Those are my 3 favorite plugins that come with Refur, completely free. And remember that you can use Refur for like 60 days without having to pay for it. You get the full software. And after that, one of my favorite things, it's only 60 bucks. I've mentioned that in another video. But don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comments, and I'll catch you on the next one.